Meetup of the day. The meetup we didn't know we needed, but clearly we absolutely do. Joel Embiid and Big Fendi, a.k.a. the haters funeral meme guy. You all remember Joel tweeted this famous meme the minute Simmons got dealt to the Brooklyn Nets. And at the All-Star game, they met in person. I didn't know Big Fendi was actually an entity, if you will, Shay.
No, because that photograph of Big Fendi that Joel Embiid posted looks like it's like from a long, long time ago. I didn't realize this is a current figure that we should all get to know and love.
Taking pictures of yourself at a funeral? I don't really know if it fits.
There's a lot of things we should question about the post and the meetup and all the things. But you know who might be able to get to the bottom of this? Brian Windhorst, because he seems to know everything nowadays. Wendy, hello. Good morning to you. Thanks for being with us. So I know you have an article coming out on ESPN.com about all the comments that LeBron made over the weekend at the All-Star game, from a potential return to Cleveland and not shutting the door, maybe playing with his son. But all this has question marks now surrounding his relationship and what's going to happen with the Lakers. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that regardless of what LeBron said, and he said a lot and has done a lot with passive-aggressive stuff on social media, from what I understand, it's not that he wants to leave the Lakers. I know that you could make that leap, but that's not what he wants. What he wants is the Lakers to be much more aggressive with the roster when it comes to this summer, because they did nothing at the trade deadline, which not only upset him, but surprised him, because from what I understand, he thought they were going to make some sort of significant move to help them. And then Anthony Davis goes down, and there's nothing there on the roster that was brought in to help weather the storm. We could argue whether the Lakers could have done anything to do that, but that's the way LeBron felt. So what he's been talking about and doing in these last 10 to 15 days is really more aimed at the Lakers being put on notice for this summer, when he is expecting significant changes to the roster.
Wendy, speaking of weathering the storm, the Suns find themselves trying to do exactly that, as they found out Chris Paul has that thumb injury to his non-dominant hand. Cam Payne is coming off injury. When he gets back into that lineup, he will be expected to elevate his performance. Of course, you got Aaron Holiday, who they acquired at the trade deadline. But how does this Phoenix Suns squad weather the storm without future Hall of Famer Chris Paul for the next 6 to 8 weeks?
This was a big blow. I talked to Chris Paul on Saturday about it. He was not really able to say what the injury was, but his hand was in a cast. So I knew he was not going to be bouncing right back from after the All-Star break. He actually told me he was relieved that he didn't have a more serious injury that needed surgery, because he's already had 4 surgeries on his hand and wrist, including last summer. And he said to me that his hand surgeon is practically a member of his family right now. So he was relieved that, it's a 6 to 8 week injury, but he should be back. Now, the Suns have a 6.5 game lead on the Warriors for the number 1 seed in the West. But they have that lead because Chris Paul has been so awesome this season in the clutch. They are one of the greatest clutch, at least regular season teams that I've ever seen, and certainly one of the best in the last generation in the NBA. So the question is, without that clutch general, can they keep this lead? And I would point out that this is an incredible opportunity for Devin Booker. Devin will have the eyes of the league on him now without Chris. And the reason this is relevant, if he can play and keep his play up at all-star level, keep the Suns playing at a high level, I think it would cement his case to make All-NBA. And making All-NBA is a huge deal for Devin Booker this season, because it would pave the way for him to qualify for a super max contract this offseason. We're talking $70-ish million difference if he were to be willing to sign that. So actually, you could say Devin Booker has a good opportunity here.
Yeah, and I do want to make a correction. Misspoke, said non-dominant hand. Clearly, it is the dominant hand in which that thumb injury is for Chris Paul.
Okay, fair enough. So let's go from the West now to the East, which feels like it's basically up for grabs at this point, right? Like the Heat, the Bulls, the Bucks, the Cavs, all kind of hovering around the top. In this second half now of the NBA season, is there a storyline out of the East you want to keep an eye on, Wendy?
Well, I think it's important to find out when Ben Simmons is going to play. That's a key one, because that's still unclear. Also, let's keep an eye on Zach LaVine and his knee. Now, this kind of, I felt, flew under the radar over the weekend. But as soon as Zach LaVine was available to the media, I immediately went to talk to him about his knee. He missed 3 games last week when he was out in Los Angeles seeing a knee specialist. And I said, well, what happened out there? And he said, well, I got PRP, platelet-rich plasma. I got a cortisone shot, and I got my knee drained, but now I'm good. And I was like, whoa, those two things don't always seem to go together. He obviously felt good enough to go play in the All-Star game. He felt good enough to throw down like a reverse dunk within like about a minute of himself being on the court. But you got to worry if you're a Bulls fan, what's going on with that knee and will it be okay as the season goes on? The Bulls are right there at the top next to the Miami Heat. It's going to take a lot to defend that position. They're going to want home court in this playoff. So I guess he said his knee is feeling better. I guess that's good news, but it's obviously something to keep an eye on and be worried about.
And the Bulls, a team that have top 5 hardest schedules in the second half.
And it really feels like health is the only thing that could hold these Bulls back from taking that next step.
Luckily, they'll get Alex Caruso, hopefully Lonzo Ball back in the mix here shortly. Brian Windhorst, thanks for the time as always and the insight.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.